ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनश्वन्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। आत्मस्वरूप बंधुगण, let us say the 15th verse. स्वस्थान संस्थितो दीपः सर्वतो भासयेद्यथा स्थिरस्थायी तथा साक्षी बहिरन्तः प्रकाशयेत्। You see, we are doing what is called Adhyaropa Apavada Prakriya. I have explained it on the day one. So initially we superimpose something, a deliberate superimposition we do, or we start with a given superimposition. There is a superimposition in the life, it is given, it is already there, and we take it as the starting point. And so having appreciated it as a superimposition, now what remains to be done is apavada. You negate it. If you take it to be like and dislike in our life, because when you look at an object, either I like it or I dislike it only because I take it to be real. When I take the flower to be real, I like it or I dislike it. Both. When we take a thing to be real, we like it. Whenever we have a liking for an object, it means we are taking the object to be real. Whenever we have a dislike for the object, that also means we are taking it to be real. Therefore, when you take something to be real, when you take the world to be real, then you cannot avoid likes and dislikes, because the moment you take it as real, that itself is the source of like and dislike. You have a choice whether to take it as real or not. If you take it as real, now you don't have a choice. Like and dislike becomes obvious. Anyway, so we have a superimposition, a set of superimpositions in life. They are given to us. We are born with it. Ajnana is coming, and so we have to analyze them. And having understood a superimposition as such, we have to negate it. And sometimes in Shastra, we make a deliberate superimposition. A young man who is roaming on the road, he is brought before elders and scholarly people, and one thread is put in his neck, and he is called Brahmachari. That is a superimposition, very deliberate superimposition. It's not that the Atma, the life that is manifesting in him is the Brahmachari. That is not the idea. Just a deliberate superimposition, so that he will study. And once he reached a level of study, and now he is a young man, now we make another deliberate superimposition that you are a married person. Otherwise, he will pursue his desires in an undesirable way. Therefore, you make a superimposition. So, in Grahasthashrama, the sense pleasures are sanctioned, but within a maryada, within a limit, and in a proper way. So, therefore, it's a superimposition. Then he is called Vanaprastha. That is another superimposition. So, it is now time to withdraw. Atma need not withdraw from anything. Atma cannot withdraw also. But it is a superimposition. Sannyasa is a final superimposition. So, the superimposition is there. Sometimes it is deliberate. And once it is deliberate, the moment the purpose is served, it gets automatically negated. Whereas if it is given, means if it is there in our life, then we have to make an effort to understand it as such and negate it. This is the process of understanding. Now, this is the Adhyaropa Apavada Prakriya. Now there are two major superimpositions which I mentioned on the day one. The first one is it is a world. That is a superimposition. There is nothing called a world. It is Brahman or Ishvara. It is reality. It is existence. It is like saying the world of ornaments. So there is no world of ornaments. There is only gold. World of ornaments is a projection. So it's a superimposition. So similarly, the world of plurality of names and forms is a superimposition. I am an individual is another superimposition. These are the two starting superimpositions. Now, I am individual is if it is a superimposition, what is its reality? If the world is a superimposition, the world of names and forms, then what is its reality? Now, that is the next question, second question. The third question is, now do we have two realities or one? The answers for all that is the understanding of Vedanta. You know the answers. Now, in understanding that the truth of the world is Brahman and the truth of the individual is Atman, and Brahman and Atman is one and the same. Tat Tvam Asi. Tat is the truth of the world. Tvam is the truth of the individual. Asi is the identity between the two. So, in understanding these three steps, we adopt a twofold prakriya. The first one is Viveka prakriya. The second one is Sarvatma prakriya. As a teacher of Vedanta, I often notice that people get confused between the two. While studying Viveka prakriya, they raise a question based on Sarvatma bhava. While understanding Sarvatma bhava, they raise a question based on Viveka prakriya. So that kind of a confusion should not be there. I will give an example. There is a jeweler merchant and he has a young teenage son. So one day he asked his son, go to the shop, they have a shop, go to the shop and get me 10 tulas gold. So the young man ran to the shop and came back quickly and reported that there is no gold in the shop. Then this jeweler shop owner thought probably somebody has burgled the whole shop overnight. So he went running. What happened? There should be a lot of gold in the shop. Why this fellow says there is no gold in the shop? Then he went running. He found everything is okay. Then he asked him, why you say there is no gold in the shop? He said, yeah, there are only ornaments. There is no gold. So that is the student of Vedanta. That gentleman, that young man is the student of Vedanta. Because I ask you, do you have a world around you or do you have an Ishvara around you? If you have a world around you, you are a student of Vedanta. On the other hand, if you have Ishvara around you, you are Siddha Purusha. You need not sit in the class. You are fulfilled, realized, and why you should sit. You may as well sit in the class also. It doesn't make any difference. Therefore, so this we are searching for Ishvara in heaven, on earth, in temples, in places of pilgrimage, in murtis and in other things. We are searching for Ishvara. That is like that young man who could not find gold in the jeweler's shop. So now that young man has to be taught. He is the student now. So there are two levels of teaching that young man. I thought I should make this Viveka Prakriya, Sarvatma Prakriya clear. That's why I took this example. So the young man has to be taught. Don't tell me that he knows what is gold and what is... don't tell me that. You just stay with the example. You don't know what is gold. You know only ornaments. Look at it that way. Now the young man has to be taught. So how he has to be taught, this is how he has to be taught. Come on, you take a necklace and I will show it to the young man. Ask him, what is this? He says, it is necklace. That is what he says. That's why he saw only necklaces and other ornaments and he could not see gold. And he doesn't know what is gold also. So then I ask him, this necklace, it is made up of a material, isn't it? Yes. Then what is the material? You know this story. You know the description. So you understand what is the material. Material is gold. That material out of which this necklace is made is gold. This is what I tell him. And I also tell him, when you touch this necklace, you are indeed touching the gold only. And when you value this necklace, you are indeed valuing the gold. So like that I will tell him. Now there are two pratyayas in his mind, two ideas. Earlier he was having only the idea of necklace. Now he has the idea of gold also. Now there are two ideas. Okay? There are no two things there. There is only thing is one, but ideas are two. So the idea of necklace is there, the idea of gold is there. Earlier there was no idea of gold also. So earlier I never knew what is Atma. I thought body is all that I have. So now, now we will tell him, you see, there is no necklace without gold, all right, but gold is not the necklace. This is the Viveka Prakriya. So, you have mistaken, this is gold only. If this is over, then that means gold is necklace. No, gold is not the necklace. Then gold is a bangle? No, gold is not the bangle. Then gold is a earring? No, gold is not the earring. Gold is none of these things. Gold is none of these things. That is Viveka Prakriya. Okay? Then, having understood that, the next stage is, then what are all these things? All these things are indeed nothing but gold. Everything is gold. That is Sarvatma Prakriya. So first you understand Viveka Prakriya. Once you have a correct understanding of Viveka, then you know necklace is mithya and gold alone is real. Having understood that, then saying that everything is gold becomes obvious. It follows automatically. Therefore, this is the story about the golden necklace. Enough of that. Let us come to the real topic. Everything, I am not anything, I am nothing. I am not an object of the world, I am not the body, I am not the sense organs, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am not the ego. I am not the witness also, we will say finally. Let us not say it now. Because sakshi, sthirasthayi, tatha sakshi. If I say I am not the witness, then what I will do with that verse? So let me not say that now. So I am not the ego, say up to that. And stay as sakshi. I am the witness only. This idea purifies the mind. There is a purpose in that idea. It is an intermediary step, a very important step in the Viveka Prakriya, in the method of discrimination. Therefore, so I am the Sakshi. I am the Sakshi. I am not any of these things. I am nothing that is perceived and conceived. I am none of these things. Then, as I tell you, this is called controlled death. Means, as you continue to negate one after the other, then they don't stand apart from you. This is not Sankhya Viveka. In Sankhya Viveka, by the time the discrimination is established, so the Purusha stands apart from the Prakriti as much as Prakriti stands apart from the Purusha. That's why it is called Dvaita Viveka. It is Dvaita Shastra. Whereas in Vedanta, by the time I discern myself from the body or the body and mind won't stand apart from me. They come and merge in me. But you don't bother about it. First you understand that you are not the body and you are not the mind. So that will come later. Later means it happens automatically. It is called controlled death. You know how? You sit in meditation. What is meditation? You walk into a hall. You are aware of all the things around. Now you sit. You are still aware of everything around. Now you close the eyes. Now you are aware of the body only. Now what happened? to all the things that are around? Earlier you were aware of all the things that are around. The awareness of all the things that are around, what happened to that awareness? It has run away somewhere outside the hall. What happened to that awareness? That awareness resolved in you. And now I am aware of the body. Now I ask you, be aware of the prana. Then what happened to the aware of the body? Awareness of the body? It is resolved in you. Then prana vekshanam. Then you are aware of the prana. Then you mano vekshanam. So then what happened to the awareness of prana? It is resolved in you. What happened to the awareness of manaha? By the time you abide as I am, the awareness of manaha is resolved in you. This is called controlled death. Death in the sense, it is a resolution, I said death. A little harsh word. This is what meditation is. A Mahatma defined meditation as controlled death. So, this is how, by the time you do viveka, then and transcend, the thing that is discerned from you comes and merges in you. There is a rule. The druk and the drishya. Druk is the witnessing awareness, not the knower. Druk is something more than knower also. I am not saying drashta, I am saying druk. So the witnessing awareness. And the drishya is the body. Now, druk stands independent, stands in its own right, independent of the body. Whereas body, the drishya, can never stand independent of druk. Therefore, when you make discrimination, the druk remains in its own right, in its own glory, and the drishya, it cannot stand apart, So it comes and merges in the druk. This is how in Taittiriya also, from Annamaya, when you grow to Pranamaya, Annamaya is resolved in prana. You don't reject the body and to hold on to prana. There is no body other than prana. So Anna resolves in prana. Prana resolves in manaha. Manaha resolves in vijnana. Vijnana, suppose you have a sentiment or an emotion in the mind, and then you think better, you know better, and you say, oh, this sentiment is unnecessary. You reject it. Then what happened to that sentiment? It resolves in the intellect, and the intellect belongs to the ego, and the ego is a movement or is a phantom, it's an appearance in the awareness. So as we go on doing discrimination, the mind becomes purified, and so instead of seeing 100 ornaments, you will start looking at one gold. This is the process. The first step is viveka. The second step is sarvatma. It continues like this. But then this is the sequence of teaching also. First you don't teach sarvatma. First you teach viveka only. Then only sarvatma. So, and by the time viveka is clear in you, you are established in discernment. Sarvatma is a child's play. You will figure it out yourself. What I mean is, Sarvasi becomes easy. Once you know what is all not tvam and what is all not tat, that gives you an insight about tvam and insight about tat. Asi is it falls in place just like that. Therefore, we are doing that viveka. Natakadipa prakaranam is an epitome of viveka. Everything else is shown as an appearance in the light of that lamp. So, is an example. So, it is the modern projectors and projector light and the cinema that works even better than the old Nataka Deepa. Because in those days they don't have a cinema, a movie they don't have. They only had an opera house kind of thing, so they took that as an example. Still they talked of something like a modern movie when Shankara talks of Gandharva Nagara, etc. So, even here, these Mahatmas, they were virtually thinking much ahead of their times. They were thinking a few centuries ahead of their times they were thinking. We will see that also, it will come. So, I am not all these things. What I take myself to be, like you see, a person in relationship, he identifies with the world, You don't think that the identification stops at the body level. No. When you say I am the father, there is an identification which goes beyond the body. Just the body is not the father, To feel that I am the father, there must be somebody who is related to this person as father on the outside. So when you say father, husband, brother, sister, etc., in all relationships, you are identifying with the outside. When you say I am the owner of car, you are identifying with the car. So I told you many times, when you say my car, you become the car. So without becoming the car, you cannot say my car. You can only say a car which I am using. So you should not feel that identification is only up to the body level. That's why kshetra, as Sri Krishna puts it, it includes the entire nature. From the nature side, body is included, and from the Atma side, as the identification happens by ignorance, so it starts with body and continues with nature. Somebody says, I own 100 acres of land. And he goes there and he says, this is my land. 100 acres ranch he shows. 100 acres may be a small thing really. So a huge ranch he shows and he says, this is all my land. He says that. My land means what? He is identifying with the land. Therefore, this identification is the bane of human living, and it continues into the outside. So we start negating it by viveka. Identification opposite is discernment. They are opposed to each other. You discern, you identify, like that. So, swasthana samsthito deepaha. You see, deepa, the light on the stage, it doesn't move. Swasthana samsthito deepaha. It doesn't move. The projector light, or the light which falls on the screen, yesterday I was telling, it doesn't move. There is no movement in the light. It is the film which moves, not the light. So, light illuminates the movement without itself moving. Swasthana samsthitaha. You see, if I start looking at this movement, etc., I can prove that there is no movement. You see, on the cinema screen, swasthana samsthitaha, that is what I am interested in explaining. So on the cinema screen, you see movement. Now, you see, there are two ways of understanding that movement. One is viveka. That movement, it doesn't belong to the light. That is the viveka. Where it belongs, you can see later. First understand that it doesn't belong to the light. In fact, the movie appears on the background of lighted screen. Lighted screen. That is a better way of putting it. Because the background is not only Chit, Sat also. The screen stands for Sat and the light stands for Chit. So we need a lighted screen or lighted background, whether it is wall or screen, or sometimes for the laser display, etc. A piece of sky itself serves as a screen. Therefore, whatever it is a Sat as well as Chit, a lighted screen. Now you see a movement on the lighted screen, but the screen doesn't move. You see movement, it supports movement, but it doesn't move. If the screen doesn't move, what is it is moving? Something, I have to tell you, something is moving. Okay, I can say the film is moving and you are happy, I am happy, we can feel good about it. But I would like to say there is nothing moving at all. Because what you call movement, it is not a real movement. You see, what is a movie that you see? One frame falls there. One frame, it falls on the screen. And then that frame stays there for 1/16th of a second. And then it disappears. Then there is a small gap in which the screen is black. There is no light on it. Then otherwise it is not black, it is brilliant white. just white lighted screen, no figure, etc. Then another film frame falls on it and it stays for 1/16th of a second. And again, there is no film. The gap, intermediate gap, where there is only light, undefined light, no figure, etc. Then a third frame falls. Like this, in a given second, there are 16 frames. They fall and go. They come and go. They come and go. It appears and disappears. And there are 16 gaps of equal duration. So 16 films means not movement, frames. So for example, the movement of hand you see. So this is one frame, second frame, third frame, fourth frame, fifth frame, sixth frame, like that 16 frames you will see, and 16 gaps you will see. That is what is there. But finally you end up seeing a dance there. In fact, Thomas Alva Edison discovered this camera, movie camera, in this fashion only. What he did is, he asked an artist to draw different frames of a dancing woman, some 50 of such frames you draw, like that he told. So that man, that artist drew all the 50 frames in different postures, like the movement of the hand, like that. 50 of them closely related, but each slightly different from the earlier frame. Like that 50 such figures were drawn on papers. So now all these papers are uniformly cut and they were bound on one side. And now you have a book-like thing. Now Thomas Alva Edison, he did like this. And he did like that, he saw a dance on that. Could you get my point? He saw a dance. He saw a woman dancing. When he did like this, he saw a woman dancing. If he does it like this, there is no dance or anything. He sees the figures of that woman in different closely related postures, but no dance. But if he does like this, it's a dance. Then he thought, my God, this is a camera, movie camera. A camera moves. Camera only projects a figure, or it depicts a figure. But now it can move. It can depict movement also. Only thing is, you have to move the film a bit quickly. Therefore, there is no movement there. You see movement. It is you see a movement there entirely by the trick of the senses. The mind and eye put together, they trick you to see a movement. That's why these cinema producers, movie producers are called dream merchants. Their merchandise is dreams only. There is nothing real in it. Therefore, so you need not be carried away by the movement and all that. There is no movement at all. That is one way, that is negating everything. You can say, at the level of discrimination, you can say the movement doesn't belong to the Sakshi. So we do that also here. We say Atma is not the Karta. Then who is the Karta? The gentleman needs a Karta. He needs a Karta because he thinks that there is a karma. Okay, you have the Karta, mind is the Karta, intellect is the Karta, Buddhi Karta. It is Viveka. It doesn't mean that there is an Atma which is a Karta and there is a Buddhi which is Karta. It is not Dvaitam. But at the level of Viveka, we say like that. Finally, Buddhi is Mithya. When Buddhi is Mithya, Kartrutvam is also Mithya. Only Atma is real. Therefore, no karma, no karta. Everything is sublated. So that will come later. So at the level of Viveka, Sakshi. So this Sakshi is like that light. Swasthana samsthitaha. What is it which stays put in its place? Swasthana samsthitaha means the Tekakara says Gamanadi Vikara Shunyaha. So there is movement on the screen. Somebody is running, a car is racing on the screen, etc. So a car races and then comes to a sudden halt. So Gamana, stopping, moving and stopping. So these vikaras means changes. These changes, they do not exist. They do not happen to the screen. I will tell you a truth of life. Very difficult to appreciate, but that is the truth. Things happen in life. They do not happen to me. They happen. Sun rises. Sun doesn't rise to me. Sun rises. Sun sets. In nature, things happen. They do not happen to me. But I take it that they happen to me. And so, sometimes I am joyous, sometimes I am cheerless. So, why they do not happen to me? Now, what all that happens on the stage, does it happen to the lamp, light? No, they just happen. Let us assume they happen. So they happen. They do not happen to the light. Because light is vikara shunyaha. It is changeless. It abides in its glory. It abides in its place. What is its place? In the illustration, its place is illuminating. Illuminating is its job. It is not even a job. We'll see that. So, Deepaha swasthana samsthitaha sarvato bhasayet. As it stays in its place, in its glory, that is the sve mahimni pratisthitaha. It doesn't do anything. If it has to do something, that is a vikara. If something is done to it, it is a vikara. So, if I tell you, suppose if this thing rolls down and falls, that is a vikara. Or I press it, it is a vikara. In the first place, it modified by itself. In the second instance, I brought a modification onto it. So, karta is also one, kartrutvam. Acting is one kind of modification or change. Being acted upon, karma, that is another kind of vikara. Nayam hanti nahanyate in Gita. Nayam hanti is not that hitting and getting hit, etc. That there hanana kartrutvam is not there. So Atma is not the karta. It doesn't act. It is not the doer. And nothing is done unto it also. Nayam hanti nahanyate. So gamana agamanadi vikara shunyaha. In the Atma, in the Sakshi, take it as Sakshi. Atma is the Sakshi. Sakshi is a superimposition which will be negated later. But let us hold on to the Sakshi for the present. So, this Sakshi, Sarvabhuta, in fact, Shankara introduces Atma as all the time Sarva Buddhi Prachaya Sakshi. That is the Atma. So, Sakshi, Swasthana Samsthito, Deepaha, it has no modifications, no changes whatsoever, yet Sarvato Bhasayet, even as it abides in its own glory, everything else around it is brought to light. Sarvato Bhasayet Yatha. Yatha means in which way, that is the illustration. Then Yatha brings in a Tatha, there is a Tatha there. Tatha Sakshi. So, you see, there are changes. There are changes, of course. The world is ever changing, and the body is ever changing. The sense organs are changeful. Mind, intellect, and ego, the entire list is changeful. But any change happens only against a changeless background. Sthirasthayi. You see, let us reduce it to the subjective and the objective. So, you can put all the pot, ghata, pata, etc., the pot, flower, etc., these are in the category of the objective. Then the eyes, in a relative way, the eyes see the flower. Therefore, eyes, they come under the category of the subjective. Eyes, manaha, buddhihi, mind, intellect, and the ego, all these come under the category of the subjective. So, the skin is the dividing line. So, whatever is within the skin, so that is the subjective, and whatever is without, that is the objective. Now, the objective is ever changeful, and the subjective is ever changeful. It is ever changeful. I see yellow light, yellow flower. I see red flower. The eyesight has changed. Unless it changes, how I see red color after seeing the yellow color? Eyesight changes. The mind changes. Yellow vritti is gone and the red vritti has come. The intellect changes because every time you recognize a color, it is a recognition. You know already that color, and then you see that color. You have known it as a child. Mother has taught. Mother has shown a bird, yellow bird. And mother has shown a piece of cloth, yellow cloth. So when mother was saying yellow bird, yellow cloth, then this boy understands, oh my goodness, there is a thing called yellow. That is the color. That is how he learned yellow. We behave as if yellow is the gospel truth. It is not the gospel truth. It is something which the poor mother has told this boy at the childhood. It is a collective thinking pattern. Everybody looks at it calls it yellow, and I inherited that collective thinking pattern. So it is not any absolute truth or any such thing. Anyway, so this is how the color is perceived. Whatever, so the eyesight is changeful, the mind, the intellect, so that is what I was saying, recognition. So you have understood yellow color that way, and it remained as a piece of information or knowledge in the mind. And that software, you bear it upon the present evidence. Whatever you see now, so that is compared and contrasted in a very short time, in a jiffy, in the mind. And so now you say yellow. Comparing with the earlier experience or samskara, impression, now you say yellow. Yellow is, I tell you, it is based on the past samskara. Otherwise there is no yellow. It is not something which you are looking afresh. There is no question of looking afresh. That's why it is all perception is recognition. There is no fresh perception. All perception is recognition. Recognition is recognition, it is. You cognize it one more time based on the software sitting in the mind. And then so the intellect, it undergoes change. Every time you change objects, intellect undergoes change. And the ego, the experiencer, he too undergoes changes. When the experience is liked, he has one kind of modification. When it is not liked, it is another kind of modification. When somebody is coming, you smile. When somebody else is coming, you frown. So the ego changes too. So the subjective is changeful, the objective is changeful. That is one thing. And what is a change? The other day I said, a thing appears and then disappears. That is what you call a change. So all change is transient. Therefore, both the subjective and the objective is changeful and transient. There is nothing real about them. Transient means it is only a time scale. On something on one time scale, it appears real. On a long time scale, it appears real. On a short time scale, it appears unreal. It is just mind's way of looking at wishful thinking, they call it. So we like to think that these things are real. It feels good because we have a silly commitment for these things. So we feel like to think like that they are real. But we continue to think like that, but they are not real, That is the problem. If they are real, may God bless, no problem. But they are not real. So they are bound to fall apart. And we continue to think they are real, and it falls apart with a thud, then we will not be able to bear that loss. Whereas we learn to know that it is transient, then there will be no suffering when they fall apart. So that is the trick. You learn to know that the thing is unreal. What is the truth? That's why I say, truth doesn't bother you. Truth doesn't make anybody suffer. It is the falsehood which makes people suffer. Anyway, so this is subjective and objective. There is nothing real about them. They are transient and changeful. But in this fleeting world of subjective, objective, the experiencer experienced in this fleeting world of subjective, objective, there is something permanent. The one constant factor which is in the background of every experiencer experience duality. So that is the Sakshi. swasthana samsthitaha deepahavat. So like that lamp, it is the one permanent, changeless, changeless constant factor. That is the Sakshi Sthirasthayi. I was trying to explain. The word is Sthirasthayi. And so Bahirantah Prakashayet. Very interesting statement. That's why I put this, I have explained this Bahihi Antaha clearly. So the Antaha, the Sakshi, it illuminates the Antaha, the within and the without. The within is subjective. And so they are the senses, mind, intellect, ego, the subjective category. So, and then the objective category, the world of objects. So the objective and the subjective, Antaha, Bahihi. So objective is Bahihi, subjective is Antaha. So you are neither the objective nor the subjective. You are the lamp, the Sthirasthayi Deepaha Sakshi. You are the permanent constant factor. This subjective objective duo, it continues to change. The objective changes, subjective changes. Subjective changes, objective changes. It continues to, sometimes objective changes and correspondingly subjective changes. Sometimes the subjective changes and then the objective changes. There is no reality about them. They are ever changeful. You see, in your life, at this moment, there is something mutable and something immutable. Now, here, there is something which is changeful and something which is changeless. But what happened with us is, we are too much engrossed in the changeful. So, one should never get totally overwhelmed by the experience. One should not totally get submerged in the experience. So, you are not the experience. You are not the known. Try to be the knower. Viveka. You are not the knower also. Just to give a chance to keep the known away, I suggested that you be the knower. Be the knower. And then once you could overcome this stifling hold of the known or the experience, we are too much engrossed in experiences. So for food taking is an experience for us. It is not a way of survival that the body takes care. Body needs food for survival and the mind provides the food to the body. It is not a simple part of life. It's not a simple event of life for us. We convert it into an experience. And so it is a simple event. By the time you make it an experience, then we are committed to that experience. We are overwhelmed by that experience. So this way, when we get submerged in experience after experience, that means we have totally identified with the senses. Experience is just at the level of senses only. That's why sensate values. When we become too much engrossed in these sense experiences, so a life is totally controlled by sensate values. All values, they are sensate in nature and they bind. So it is a very grievous mistake on our part to be so much engrossed in the experiences, all the time taking yourself to be the ego, the experiencer. You are neither the experience nor the experiencer. Try to stand apart from the duo of experiencer experience. In fact, you are the only reality in and between the experience and experiencer, yet you all the time transcend the duo of experience experiencer. There can be no experience or experiencer without the Sakshi, but the Sakshi is neither one of them. So I tell you, you see, the problem is the ego, starting from ego to the world, the whole list is external to you. It is just external to you, Viveka. Or it is all internal to you, Sarvatma. So you are neither in the Viveka nor in the Sarvatma. Starting from ego up to the body, it is mine. And for the rest is not mine. Wrong. It is not like that. You take the whole is mine. This building, this forest, the whole life, it is all me. Atma Vedam Sarvam. It is all me. There is nothing external to me. Everything is internal. Or that is Sarvatma Bhava. You can't do that, then you start negating everything. When the building is not I, then the body is also not I. Because the building is made up of the same raw materials which the body is made up of. And then mind is not I, ego is not I. Either you negate all the way or you embrace all the way. And do it halfway, it is falsehood. So you negate all the way is Viveka. That is the starting point. Ultimately you will embrace all the way is the Sarvatma Bhava. So here we are at the level of Viveka. Sthirasthayi tatha sakshi bahirantah prakashayet. So you are that light. You see, suppose on the screen, you say, this costume is wonderful. They give Oscar awards for costumes, art, background music. Music is okay, you relate to the only figures. So, makeup, best Academy Award for makeup. And art. Art means all the scenes, etc. They are made realistic as possible. So there is an Academy Award for that. Now, all these things, the costumes, the makeup, the art, etc., these are all illuminated by that lamp. That lamp doesn't get, the projector lamp doesn't get Academy Award. Nobody gives an Academy Award for a projector lamp. So, not necessary also. It doesn't need any Academy Award. What is this award and all that? So anyway, all knowledge flows from you. Sakshi, Bahirantah Prakashayet. The problem is, I think yesterday I was thinking, the sun and moon illuminate me. The sun and moon they do not illuminate me. Comet doesn't illuminate me. All illumination flows from the Sakshi. In fact, I am, the Sakshi is like that mine worker, the mine worker. The worker who works underneath, below the ground mines, he wears a headlamp. Now the mine worker is standing in this direction, then this entire direction is illuminated. And now he turns this side, this goes into darkness. This entire direction is illuminated. He turns this, wherever he turns, that path is illuminated. You are that Sakshi, you are that lamp. You look, Purastat, then the Purastat is eastern direction is illuminated. Everything comes to light. You look Paschat, everything behind comes to light. Till then it remains unknown, without illumination. You are the single source of all illumination in the form of awareness, the Druk. Therefore, Sakshi. Therefore, if there is an experience, now there are two ways of looking at that experience. This experience is illuminated by the awareness that is I am. So this is the theoretical explanation. In practical terms, I am aware of the experience. I am aware, yes. There was a young man, he failed the examination. He knew it. Somebody came running and told him, "Hey, you failed." He said, "I am aware." Suppose by the time this man came running and this man is crying, then he need not tell that you failed. He will go. Yeah, but when he was standing so firmly with a calm face, then he understood that this man is not yet knew the news. Therefore he came running. Some people like to tell that you have not passed and all that. So he came running and told, you have failed. Hey, Subbarao, you failed. Then the Subbarao told, I am aware of it. So that means he is not the experience of passing or failing. He is aware of the experience, whether it is passing the exam or failing the exam. I am aware of it. So, that is the practical implication of understanding the Sakshi. So, Balagangadhara Tilak was in Andaman jail. He was writing the commentary on Gita, Gita Rahasyam. Then the superintendent of the jail got a telegram. Telegram was the means of communication. Balagangadhara Tilak's wife died. That is the telegram. The superintendent has a great respect for this Balagangadhara Tilak. Some of the jailers, they have respect for the criminals, the so-called criminals. They are not real criminals or any such thing. They have respect, So they keep them in jail, but they respect also. So he came, and with folded hands he told, "Sir, I have bad news for you. It is my duty to convey the news to you." Okay, he was writing commentary, Gita Rahasyam. It is considered to be one of the important ways of looking at Gita. Some of those things we may not accept, that is different, but he throws light in certain ways in a marvelous way. So, then he was told, okay, what is the news? Sir, it seems that your beloved wife is no more. So Tilak looked into his face and he said, "Thank you for the kind information." And then he continued to write his verse. So it took only a few seconds to recover. Why? Because he knows that this wife, husband, these relationships are transient. Life and death, both are the two sides of a coin. They are transient. They are not real. There is nothing to die or nothing to live. So he knows he is a Sakshi and he is the Atma. So he could handle the situation very well. And when he was put in jail, he was not crying about it. When he was put in jail, "Oh, I lost my freedom." No. And without me, how the freedom movement will go on? No, Mahatmas do not think like that. Freedom movement will go on. It will go on its way. The world plods on. So, you see, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi was, during when British were ruling India, not once he said that, "Oh, India is in slavery." He did not say one time also. Very amazing thing. It did not occur to him that when a huge movement was going on also, he did not utter one word about the movement. It is a world plots on. So, this is how an experience can be looked at. So that power to look at an experience in an unruffled fashion, that is a power, that is freedom. You see, people, they like sense pleasures. If only we have the same love that we have for the sense pleasures, if only we have the same love for that inner freedom, which is moksha, then you will know the truth very soon. The problem with us is, we don't want that inner freedom. We have not yet developed a value for it, because we are too overwhelmed or too blind in the sensate values. They blinden us. Sensate values, they make us blind. They throw an opaque screen of wrong values. Therefore, so sthirasthayi tatha sakshi bahirantaha prakashayet. You are the source of all illumination. So, let us take up the next verse. Bahirantar vibhagoyam dehapeksho na sakshini vishaya bahya deshasthaha dehasyantaraham krutihi. So now there are two things. One is bahihi and the other is antaha. So Sakshi illuminates both within and without. But then you say Sakshi is a center of dimensionless awareness. It is dimensionless. You cannot fix the dimensions for Sakshi. You can fix the dimensions for the body, not for the Sakshi. You can fix mind for mind also. Mind is, it pervades the body. Therefore, the dimensions of the body are same as the dimensions of the mind, or whatever. But there are no dimensions for the Sakshi. Sakshi is the dimensionless center of observation. And there is no time in Sakshi. This also I tried to tell. So Sakshi is timeless. You are timeless. Experientially, everything is with you. So you are the timeless reality, and so you are the dimensionless center of observation. If that is the case, what is this Bahihi Antaha? What is this within, without? Within to whom? Within, without to whom? Is it with reference to Sakshi, this within and without? No. Then what? Bahirantar Vibhagoyam. This classification of within and without. Bahihi is without, Antaha is within. This classification, Dehapekshaha, it is relative to the body. The skin, the body line, they call it, the body line. So it is relative to the body. So, only with, you see, I tell you, I went to the Ganga. So, the water is flowing, the Ganga water. It is neither mine nor me. I cannot say it is mine. Now, I dip my kamandalu, a small vessel, in the Ganga water and lift it. Now I say, this is mine. How? The same water, it is there, it is not mine, and you put it in the kamandalu, how it is mine? You say, it is water available to me now, you can say all those things. What is this mine? Suppose I lift it in the kamandalu, and somebody says, sir, give me some water. Oh no, this is my water. So in India, this municipal water is there. So municipal water is drinking water. We have two separate kinds of water. One is drinking water, the other is for other purposes, bath, washing clothes, etc. So the drinking water, we collect it. It comes through it's a running water for, it comes for 1 hour in 3 days or 2 days. And there are many people who have to collect. I too collect like that, once in 2 days. And so that is collected and stored, and we drink that. Now, suppose one person collected that water, and now I asked him, sir, I came late for collecting water, can you share your water with me? Nah, it is my water. So this way it is there. The kamandalu water, you may not appreciate it when I said, that's why I gave this example. Therefore it is mine. Now you put in the mouth and you are drinking it. And so once you drink it, goes below the neck, it is me, not mine, me it is. Suppose after drinking somewhat, now something more is there. This something you don't want to drink, you want to push it out, expel it. Then while expelling, it is neither mine nor me. It was mine before, and it was me also, but now it is neither mine nor me. So what is this mean, mine and me? Therefore, in this world, in this creation, there is nothing which I can call mine or me. I come into the world utterly alone, and I cannot even call the body mine. And the prana I cannot call mine. So, and I leave the world utterly alone. So there is nothing I can really call me or mine. You think about it. If there is nothing that I can call me or mine, then there can be no me, no mine. This me, mine, it is a relative thing. There must be something around which the me, mine idea hovers. If there is nothing which can support that me, mine, then there is no me, there is no mine. That's why when the Mahatmas, they transcend the body identification, the idea of me, mine will be very misty-like. It just doesn't exist in the mind. Life goes on. But the me, mine notion will be very weak. So anyway, so this Bahihi Antaha Vibhagaha, the classification of within and without, is entirely with reference to the body line, na sakshini. Sakshi is the dimensionless center of illumination or awareness. There is no within, there is no without. So, suppose on the cinema screen, in the space you take, so you see an object is within the hall and another object is without the hall. But what about space? Space, is it within or without? The question doesn't arise because the space includes the hall. The thing which you are calling the hall, that is in the space only. Everything is in space. The hall, the point of reference is in space, and whatever you say without, that is in space, and whatever you say within with reference to that point of reference, that is also in space. So that's why the space really transcends within and without, yet it supports the within and without. Similarly, while supporting it transcends, that is the meaning of param. Every time we come across the word param, param is, while suppose sakshi is there, it is param to subject, subjective and objective. So subject object, it is param. So what does it mean? It means it is in between the subject and object. It is in and through the subject and object, yet transcends the subject and object. That is what is called param. Param is not something is here and something else is here. That is not param. So while pervading the subject-object, it transcends the subject-object. Gold is param because it pervades the ornaments, yet transcends them. That's why we call gold param. Anyway, so Vishaya Bahya Deshasthaha Dehasyantarahangkritihi. Okay, so with reference to the body, if body is the reference point, okay, now we can define the within without clearly. So with reference to the body, Bahya Deshasthaha, with reference to the body, whatever lies outside the body line, they are the objects. They are the category of objective. And antaha, dehasya antaha, within the body line, whatever is there, it is the egoity, ahankritihi, ego. So here that antaha is simplified as ego. That means this ego which includes the senses, mind and intellect. It is the ego's senses, ego's mind, ego's intellect. Therefore, so at one time we divide them and some other time we combine all of them like that. So body is the point of reference. With reference to Sakshi, there is no within, there is no without. I'll ask you a question. Suppose you go into woods, woods of God realization. So go into woods. So, do you look, while looking at the woods around, woods means trees, So while looking at the woods around, do you look upon yourself as one more wood? No. Right? Then what are you? You are the Sakshi, looking at the woods, yet transcending the woods. Right. Now, you go among people. So now you are among bodies. How do you look at the situation? Do you look at yourself as one more body? There are bodies around and I am one more body. Is that the way you look at yourself? Yeah, that is wrong. That is not the way to look at the. So, when you are among the bodies, you look at the bodies, and these are all bodies, and these are all, that these includes this body also. These includes this. Therefore, these are all bodies, including this body. And I am like woods. These are all woods. No single wood is I. I am the witness with reference to all the woods. Similarly, I am witness with reference to all the bodies. There is nothing me, mine associated with this body. It is this body is perceived as well or as clearly as I perceive any other body. The day you do that, That is God realization, Viveka. It becomes a Sarvatma automatically. That's why in the woods of God realization, that is the title. So what I was trying to say, Sakshi should not be identified with a body. And the inner, outer, within, without, or internal, external. So when I say me, mine, that is internal. When I say non-me, non-mine, that is external. So all these divisions, they do not really apply to the Sakshi. Sakshi is above all these divisions. So I look at this body as well as I look at any other body. It is just like going into the woods. One wood is just by my side. I look at that wood as non-me, as well as I look at any other wood. Just because I am leaning on this wood, so this is me, everything else is non-me. Do I do that? No. That is not the correct way of looking at it. And so now you replace the wood with a body. In fact, body is a wood. Body is wood. The same constituents. And that's why in India there is a song. So this body is the wood. And when the body is born, they put it in a cradle made of wood. Because body is wood, And then when the fellow wants to learn walking, this kid has to learn walking, they give a 3-wheel cart made of wood. India, not here. Here it is all plastic, so the example doesn't work here. It's a plastic world. So it is a wheel, so he learns, this wood learns to walk with the help of a wooden cart. So a wooden kind of thing it is, whatever you call it, ambulator or whatever. Then this person, when he grows, he sleeps on a cart made of wood. So the wood is sleeping on the cart of wood. And then he grows old, he walks around with the help of a wooden staff. And when he dies, this wood is kept on that carrying thing, stretcher. On that stretcher, which is not made of some sophisticated materials, etc. It is made of wood. And so this wood lies down on that stretcher made of wood. And finally, this wood is consumed in the flames with the help of other pieces of wood. So this is the story of wood, life history of wood. So in the woods of God realization, that is the title. Anyway, so all this discussion, all this division, etc., it applies to the body only. Bahirantar vibhagoyan dehapekshaha na sakshini. So vishaya bahya deshasthaha dehasyantar ivankratihi. So we will conclude at this point and continue later. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Krishnarpanamastu.